welcome to Dorsum Expert Talks. This is our second in a sequel. And in these talks, we try to talk about crypto investments, blockchains, digital assets with experts all around the CE. And today's guest is Vid Hribar, who is working for the blockchain hub at Raiffeisen Bank International. And I hope we could have very interesting conversations around stablecoins, crypto assets, about the region as well. So welcome, Vid. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
Welcome to our talk.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the invite. Looking forward to our discussion.
Great. Me too. So as just for a warm up, can you introduce yourself and what do you do in a blockchain hub, and what does this blockchain hub do at Raiffeisen? I'm very interested in it.
Yeah, happy to do so. So my name is Vid Hribar, originally from Slovenia, but now I have been working and living for the last couple of years in Austria at RBI. Here at RBI, we have a small team that deals with all these emerging technologies, from generative AI. We covered also the open banking topic. And for the last couple of years, we have been focusing heavily also on the blockchain topics. So I have been mostly, let's say, experimenting and analyzing the blockchain applications in terms of blockchain and payments. So at this intersection, so everything that has to do with digital money, this is something that I have been dealing with. In general, we do a lot of research. Also, when we see an interesting use case, we pilot these things or do a POC there. But a big part of our work is actually also strategy building. So kind of showing the way where we believe that RBI Group should go in terms of these new technologies, in our case now, blockchain.
Sounds really, really, really good. And I think, so you know what we do at Dorsum, just a very short introduction. We as well as a software vendor, with our consulting team, we try to figure out what can banks and these incumbent players do with blockchain and digital assets as well. So we kind of do the same things, just not internally in a big organization, but just as external consultants. So I think I'm a big believer in this kind of institutional blockchain use cases or crypto use cases. I really it's really good to hear what you're doing. Because it's a proof that it is happening.
I mean, definitely. Yeah. And this is something that probably we'll talk about it, but definitely we can also see a lot of push in terms of cryptocurrencies, but also general digital assets, especially in banking now after MiCA was passed and when we got the regulatory clarity.
Yeah, exactly. We see it in Hungary as well, and in the region. It's getting more and more excited. Yeah, so I think there was big news lately that you worked on with other banks. You RBI worked on this kind of euro stablecoin, and since we're gonna have our biggest topic today is stablecoins, can you help me describe what was this big news about, and what should we know about stablecoins in general?
Yeah. So in this September, we announced that we are planning to launch a euro stablecoin together with 8 other banks. This was the announcement in September, but actually the project started already 3 years ago. So as you can imagine, 3 years ago, the environment was much different. The stablecoin market cap was at around $130 billion, and there was almost no pressure from the banks or the broader EU policy support when it comes to these topics. Back then, we were 4 banks that kind of said, let's explore whether it makes sense to issue a euro stablecoin. And we did a lot of analysis, especially on one side, on the business side. So what are the use cases for such a stablecoin? What is the business case for such a new entity? A lot of analysis also on the tech side. So what is the infrastructure that we actually need to issue a euro stablecoin? Who are the vendors that can help us with that? And last but not least, also quite an extensive work when it comes to legal risk and regulatory elements. We issued internal a report that said basically there is an opportunity for the banks to join forces and to issue a euro stablecoin together. But we knew that with 4 banks, we might not have this market momentum, or the power of these banks was not strong enough to shift the markets. And then we also decided that we want to expand the consortium. That's why we are currently 9 banks that announced these plans to issue a euro stablecoin. Here we have to say we are an open consortium, so more banks will still join in the next couple of months. So this is definitely not, a closed loop system that we want to create. Now, in terms of the vision that we have, we saw that as the digital asset markets are progressing and as more assets are getting tokenized, we need to feel the need for a trusted, regulated stablecoin that will act as on-chain payment and settlement instrument in order to actually support the development of the digital asset ecosystem. This new entity that we already established, and that is owned by these 9 banks, will of course serve the broader market. So there will be partnerships with crypto exchanges, with PSPs, fintechs, but the long-term vision is also to bring banks closer to the digital asset ecosystem. So to enable actually the banks to build products and services based on stablecoins. And as we know, usually, when you have a banking project, bank act quite slowly, the developments take a while. That's why we also decided to separate this entity from banks so that we can act faster, but still serve as a bridge between the banks and this digital asset ecosystem.
So these entities kind of the spin-off of all these 9 banks, right? In terms of this use case, this particular use case. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sounds interesting. And so as I understand, according to Micah, this is going to be an e-money token, right? Which means that you have to be backed 100% by real euro in custody, as I understand that. And just referring back what you said, I think the stablecoin market cap, I just checked, it's around 300 billion USD right now, 300 through 305, roughly, which is roughly the 10% of the total market cap, right? Of cryptos, I think, because it's 3.5 billion, trillion USD.
Exactly.
Because that was a little bit of a dip these days when we have this recording. So it's pretty interesting because it's one of the backbone of the whole industry. And
definitely. And just to add maybe here, it's not just about the market cap. So market cap has definitely been increasing in the last couple of years. But if you also look at the transaction volumes of stablecoins, these have also been increasing significantly. And I think, especially if we consider stablecoin as some kind of payment or settlement instrument, transaction volumes here matter even more. So this is also kind of an indicator that the market is actually, growing.
Exactly. As I bet you also read the reports of state of crypto and of A16Z, and there are other reports as well who really have backing up this information that stablecoin volumes are really, I think they're more than Visa was last year. So I think it's pretty promising. But here's the kicker. I think that's the interesting question here. So as far as we know, and then we experience it in the crypto market, most of the stablecoins are USD backed. And even though Micah changed a little bit of these things in Europe, the thing is still the same. So how do you plan to compete with the USD backed stablecoins? Because I think that's the interesting question.
Yeah. You're totally right. So most of the stable coins currently are denominated in US dollar. I believe that the number there is more than 99% of the stable coins are denominated in US dollars, and Euro stablecoin market cap is around 0.2 of the global stablecoin market. So how do we want to compete with that? first, we're building a euro stablecoin, and here we see that none of the euro stablecoins have reached a significant volume yet. So we have a couple of issuers such as Circle, AllUnity, Stasis, some others, but none of them have really found, let's say, product market fit or have managed to reach significant volumes there. I think that one of the biggest, let's say, problems or challenges there are that stablecoins are still issued mostly by fintechs. And fintechs are great with innovation, they're moving fast, but they're still trying to catch up on two things. The first one is definitely trust. And here, I believe that trust is a big thing in especially in the payment and banking industry. When it comes to mass adoption, and especially when it comes to corporate adoption, here we see that there is a need for a trusted stablecoin. So talking to the corporates, they would not try or they would not like to introduce an additional risk factor in their payment value chain, but they would rather trust a stablecoin that is coming from, let's say, a more traditional kind of partners. So this is definitely one thing where we see that we can definitely bring some value to the industry. And the second one is also the relationships that banks already have with their clients. So a lot of the stablecoin issuers, how they started, so they issued a stablecoin and then they try to list the stablecoin on different exchanges, work with different fintechs and PSPs, including now trying to be part of the banking offerings. We are approaching this from a bit of a different perspective. So we are a group of banks. We already have these relationships and this potential distribution network. And now we're trying to build a stablecoin that can also be distributed through this banking channel. So we are approaching this from a bit of a different perspective. And I think that one important element that we also have to mention here is the European payment autonomy. So for a long time, Europe has been heavily dependent, especially on US card networks. And in times of this, and in times of these geopolitical pressures, we believe that it's important that we ensure that Europe has payment rails that they can control. So being a European banking consortium here definitely helps.
Yeah, that's very right, and I think that is an interesting take on it. But still, I mean, are there a way to? You mentioned trust. You mentioned the clients of these banks. So I guess these new payment rails will be utilized when people can use it. I mean, seamlessly, easily, whatever. So I mean, I guess we're gonna feel that when these banks or other banks try to build products on it, right? So that's what should be the next step, right?
Exactly. So
I guess
currently, we're still at the stage where we established the entity, which should then somewhere next year in summer start issuing stablecoins. But this doesn't mean that the clients of the banks will already be able to use stablecoins. We see this as kind of an enabler. So we will try, of course, to talk to banks, to share the best practices here. But at the end of the day, it's also up to each bank where they find the use cases for the distribution of stablecoins. Some of them are looking more in cross-border payments. Some of them are looking more in terms of settling tokenized assets with such a stablecoin. So there are definitely different use cases that these banks are exploring, using, of course, the stablecoin that we plan to issue next year.
That's great. And what do you think? Or maybe a preliminary question, because I'm not sure I would ask the right one after that. So would you let people use these tokens, these stablecoins in DeFi, or what's the idea? How open would this be?
Yeah, this is a great question. So currently, we do see that a lot of the stablecoin issuers or a lot of the stablecoins in general are used for crypto trading and also DeFi applications. when it comes to the exact business strategy of this new issuer, I cannot comment on that, but definitely this is also a potential area that we would like to explore. I mean, this space is also maturing. It's maturing slow, but still it's definitely moving. And I believe that in the future, we will see more and more applications on DeFi. Also, when it comes to this institutional DeFi applications, this is something very interesting or potentially very interesting for banks. So this is definitely something that we would like to explore.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I also wanted to add. That's the next step, I guess. Institutional DeFi. We start to see some, but it's really early days. Early days.
Exactly.
But summarizing it, so the spirit of this stablecoin is to be open as the blockchain spirit, right? And we're gonna see it if we can use it in DeFi.
Yeah, you can summarize it like that. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's okay. And here's another question connecting to that. So if believing it that this could be open, but we can say to our existing stable coins, so USD stable coins back then. So how do you see the role of AI in these kind of payment rails? Because I think that's the most interesting topic in blockchain in general. But usually, when these bots are trading crypto to crypto, that's a thing. But when they can use these payment rails to do cross-border payments for on behalf of somebody or on behalf of an entity, I think that's when it comes to be really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that AI space is maturing really fast. So what we are seeing also in terms of the AI agents, I think that this is a big disruption that is coming. I'm not completely sure that everybody is aware how big this could actually be and how many sectors this can actually disrupt. But we definitely see also blockchain and stablecoins here as an important enabler, as the payment rails for these machine-to-machine payments, AI agent payments. Definitely stablecoins can support this global 24/7 instant payments that can also be customized and integrated in different applications. So from this perspective, I do think that there's an interesting mix. I think we will still see how this plays out. I don't think that the standards have been set yet, but definitely a very interesting field to observe.
Yeah. Definitely. Just as in summarizing up the stablecoin topic, can you mention some use cases? Because we have listeners and viewers who are kind of the bank professionals or banking professionals. How can a bank use this kind of stablecoin in the future? I mean, potentially. I know that your strategy is under discussion and it's somehow confidential. It's 100% okay, but still, what could be the most interesting use cases that might be get put on some bankers' head? And yeah, it's interesting. I should talk to this guy. With maybe we have something to do with this.
Yeah. So in terms of the use cases that we currently see for the stablecoin on the stablecoin market is definitely crypto trading. So cryptocurrency markets are denominated in US dollar stablecoins, DeFi applications that we already mentioned, and there's an interesting one that is also store of value. So a lot of people in emerging markets wanted to get their let's say exposure to a more stable currency. So they don't want to hold their local currency, which might be subject to big inflation in their country. They would rather hold their let's say assets or their value in more stable currency. And here, many of these people do not necessarily ask for a US dollar stablecoin, but they do ask for US dollars. And I think that here stablecoins are a very convenient way how to get exposure to this currency. But when it comes to the more, let's say, more traditional finance, traditional payment space, we do see that a lot of these use cases are slowly moving from crypto trading, DeFi, also in more traditional space. So one of them would definitely be cross-border payments. When we're talking about cross-border payments, at least to certain corridors, the payments are still slow, expensive, and not transparent. And we believe, or we see actually on the market, that a lot of the fintechs are already doing a great job trying to solve this issue with stablecoins. And on the other side, also, as I mentioned, that more and more assets will be tokenized in the future. And it's not enough that we just tokenize the assets. We also have to have cash like on blockchain to enable this seamless settlement of these assets on blockchain and to enable this, what we call the true delivery versus payment, or the instant settlement on blockchain. So here you can think about tokenizing bonds, tokenizing equities, fund shares, commodities, so different assets that will be tokenized and also need a cash like on blockchain. So these are just a couple of the use cases. One of the interesting use cases that is also very dear to my heart is the merchant settlement. So some of the card networks are already settling the transactions between the parties on their network in stablecoins, and this enables them 24/7 global settlement that can be done instantaneously, instead of, for example, merchants waiting 2 days for their money to arrive to their bank account. So I think that this instant liquidity is also worth a lot, or means a lot, especially to certain merchant groups. So this is also a very interesting use case that we are exploring.
That's great. These are a lot, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was aware of this kind of store of value use case, but I never really thought about it deeply, to be honest. I mean, but that's very true. That's very true. I mean, it is. So going on, I would like to bring the conversation around MiCA and banking and all these kind of things. But let's start with the basics. If I remember right, RBI had an earlier blockchain initiative, which was a coin. It was RBI coin, something like that. So would this stablecoin is somehow has roots in this project, or what did you learn from it, and how can it help RBI to step onto the MiCA universe with all the other kind of use cases that we are seeing now that you're experimenting with?
So we started piloting RBI coin, which was a stable coin back in 2021. Back then we had this idea, let's not just talk about things, but let's actually test them. And that's why we piloted or issued in the pilot environment this stable coin. And what we did there, we compared it to, let's say, current cross-border payment flows. So for example, our colleagues here in RBI head office were transferring money to another network bank, once with stablecoins, one using traditional rails, and then we kind of compared these two. And the second use case that we did there is also we tokenized some fund shares and we settled them using the RBI coin, and we proved that this can be settled instantaneously.
And was it a coin which was backed, or it was just an immediate exchange on both sides? So was it something that had a real value because it was backed with something, or it was just an exchange value?
No, it was backed 1-to-1 with euro. It was euro denominated, but again, it was issued in a pilot environment, so it wasn't issued in a production environment. The second thing that we did there, actually, we issued another stablecoin, again in a testing environment. We called it Raiffeisen Euro Stablecoin token. And this one was a more internal token that we use more for educational purposes. So we saw that there is still a lot of education that needs to be done. And we said, why not do it with people actually using things? So we issued this token, and we gave our employees here in Raiffeisen head office crypto wallet where they could put these tokens or transfer these tokens, and they could use these tokens in the canteen to buy food there and to spend them there. Some also called it schnitzel token because you could also buy schnitzel with it. But
That's great.
the most important thing was the educational part. So to give people something to play with, to start learning the blockchain concepts. And what we learned actually from these two pilot cases is on one side, from tech perspective, it's not rocket science to issue a stablecoin. So definitely, I'm not saying it's easy, but on the other side, it's also not something that that cannot be done, let's say. On the other side, we realized even back then that we need regulation for that. So back then, MiCA was just in discussions. We knew that it's coming. So we knew that we have to wait for a couple of years to actually make this to put this in a production run. And thirdly, what we also realized is if we issue our own stablecoin and every bank decides to issue their own stablecoin, the market will be very fragmented. So we, for example, would maybe not accept another bank stablecoin, and the same goes for them. So the market would be fragmented, and that's why we also decided to take a different approach, to take this joint approach together with the consortium of other banks, and to issue one stablecoin that we can use together. So to set some kind of market standard, and to ensure that every bank is also able or is actually accepting this stablecoin.
Thank you for this kind of historical lesson on RBI coin and Schnitzel coin. Yeah, and how do you see, I mean, you mentioned as well, I also mentioned MiCA. So MiCA is here. It's with us for 1.5 years now, I guess, if I estimated right. So what's your take on it? How successful was it? What do you see in the market? Maybe in Austria, maybe in the CE. How do you see the regulation and its utilization?
So MiCA is definitely, MiCA, first of all, is a very comprehensive regulation on issuance of certain crypto assets such as e-money tokens, what also our stablecoin will be, asset reference tokens, but it also regulates the entities that are dealing with crypto assets such as exchanges, custodians, advisors, trading platforms, and so on. So it provides a very good foundation. On the other side, I think that it's important also to say that stablecoins are not a completely new instrument. So before we knew e-money, and before we also used e-money, so everybody that used, for example, PayPal, who also had their e-money wallet and their e-money token, their e-money there. Now, what is different is that stablecoins are now e-money on steroids. So e-money was never allowed actually to be transferred outside of the ecosystem of this issuer. And now with stablecoin, this is not just possible, but also regulatory doable. So from this perspective, I think that MiCA is just building based on the PSD 2 regulation that already provided a framework for e-money tokens. So I think that this is just some kind of continuation of the regulation that we already have. Just that with stablecoin now, the whole space becomes more open. You have this network effects. You can integrate stablecoins in different, let's say, applications that fintechs are building or even the banks are building. So it's much more open for innovation.
Yeah, and how I see it in terms of this e-money token and e-money is like e-money token is the tokenized e-money, right? So I mean, in the first place, as you mentioned, you have an e-money in a system which cannot leave that system, but then we tokenize so it can leave the system in the blockchain settlement layer, right? So
exactly,
that's my mental model on as well. Yeah. Okay. So just turning onto a market perspective, how do you see the Central European and Eastern European markets? What if you have a view on crypto assets and crypto adoption? Because obviously stablecoins are kind of crypto assets, and that's where they come from. So what's your take on this thing? Even your personal take. How do you see the market now?
Yeah. So in terms of the markets, I think here I currently live in Austria, and I see that Austria has seen the opportunity and already positioned itself as the crypto hub here in Europe. So we have Bitpanda here for long years. Now lately also Bybit and KuCoin decided to base their headquarters here in Vienna. And it's also interesting to look what are actually the factors that led them to base their headquarters here. And at least in my personal opinion, one element here is definitely a very skilled regulator that has a very clear set of rules. And I think that this is not good just for the kind of regulatory positioning of the FMA, our local regulator here, but also for the broader Viennese and Austrian economy, because also new jobs are created here. In terms of the CE markets, I see that there's a lot of potential. Crypto adoption is quite high in this market. I do see that the regulatory frameworks are still a bit behind MiCA, especially in countries that are not part of the EU and have not implemented MiCA. So I hope that this is also something that catches up soon. One strong reason why I believe that there is a big potential in the CE markets is also the IT savvy people, developer ecosystem. So I think that a lot of good things can be built in these markets. And I hope that these countries also see this as an opportunity to actually, promote their country, pass the regulation, and create a vibrant digital asset ecosystem.
Yeah, I see something similar. So it's very, very interesting to see what's happening in Vienna, because all these companies, I also recognize that most of them has, Bybit was, I think, the latest one, but I'm not sure by date. But yeah, it's really getting something there, and I think it's good because Hungary is also very close. So I mean, it's good for everybody, I guess, as well. And I also a big believer in the Central European market as well. We are kind of checking the numbers of all of the region, and these are really promising. I mean, how people are adopting these assets. So it's very, very interesting to see.
Yeah.
So
I mean, here in terms of the cryptocurrency adoption, I did some research a while ago, and we realized, or I think that every bank now is starting to realize, that a lot of the flows are actually from banks' bank accounts to crypto exchanges, to trading platforms, to people actually trading crypto. So I think that the sign is definitely there. Now it depends also from banks to banks how they plan to respond to that. But what's an interesting fact is also that when I did the research, I saw that 9 out of 10 trading platforms or investment platforms in the CE markets are offering cryptocurrencies. So I think this is not something that is somewhere else, something that we don't want to touch, something that is maybe more for nerds. This is becoming a part of a standard investment offering, and I think that it's also important that we realize this. Otherwise, banks, it's not just about the opportunity for banks here, it's also some kind of defense move not to further lose your clients that are switching to the other investment platforms that offer crypto. Also from the discussions with one of the Swiss banks, actually, they told me we started the crypto offering a couple of months ago, and we thought it's just going to be cryptocurrencies. But then people started really first with crypto, but then quite slowly, quite fast actually, they started to also buy other investment instruments. They realized maybe it's not wise that I have 100% of my wealth in crypto. Let's also buy some ETFs. Let's also buy some stocks. And they expanded their investment portfolio also to the other investment instruments. So they came for crypto, but they stay for the ETFs. So I think that these two worlds are actually coming closer and closer.
It's very interesting because, I 100% agree, because I think, this kind of we talk about this Gen Z and these newer. I think Gen Alpha is the next gen after Z, right? I'm even not sure. Maybe
there's another one.
Maybe we have beta already. I don't know. Yeah. So we are starting to get into boomers right now again. No, I mean just kidding. So these generations are, they get their mobile phone, and it's so seamless and easy to try to buy some coins, some tokens, maybe some meme coins, whatever. But the thing is that they are starting to learn investments on their own, experience via crypto assets. So that's their that's their door into this investing into anything. Maybe it's stupid, maybe it's not that solid thinking behind that, but that's when that's the asset which they are trying. And I think that's a big opportunity for a bank that even most of the banks wants to call these new generations to start your journey with these assets, and then you can go to stocks, bonds, and so on, ETFs, and all these kind of things. And I think it's pretty important that we should help this generation to have this financial education around these assets, and then the newer assets, and then the newer assets, because in general it's good for the society that people are educated financially. Yeah. So I 100% agree. Yeah.
I agree here. And I think for the newer generations, this is kind of the first step into this investment world. But of course, it's smart that you do not invest just in one asset class, but that you kind of distribute the wealth into different asset classes. But on the other side, what we also see is more and more research how, let's say, putting 5% or certain percent of cryptocurrencies in your investment portfolio also improves the risk return ratio of the, let's say, more traditional investment portfolio. So also from the side of, let's say, let's call them boomer investors, this actually makes sense, and there is a rationale for that. I mean, this is no investment advice, but on the other side, there are some researchers that show that this makes sense.
Okay, I 100% agree. Yeah, and soon wrapping it up because our time is soon up. But I have a very very last question for you. So, since you are in this banking, crypto, blockchain, digital assets space, what excites you the most? What's the next that excites you the most? It could be it's two questions, right? So not gonna be that easy for you. One is that in your current role, I mean, in this stablecoin space, and in general, what use case you think it's interesting, or what's technological advancement in the space you think it's exciting?
Yeah. So on one side, I think that finally now we're coming to this stage where the space is maturing, and for a long time, the whole space here with banks and blockchain, it was just about experimentation, education. Now where we're coming is to more and more projects going live. So I believe that or I know that a lot of the banks have their digital asset strategy set up, and they're working on the infrastructure. And I believe that next year we will also see a lot of product launches by banks. So on one side, we have cryptocurrency offerings that many of the banks will launch next year. But on the other side, still a bit more experimentation when it comes to tokenization of assets, and when it comes to, let's say, stablecoin use cases such as cross-border payments with stablecoins. So there I do expect more pilots, more POCs still being done, but definitely the space is maturing. And what actually is a very pleasant feeling for me here working in a bank is that now this year is the first time where I'm actually getting proper interest or pull from the business lines. So before that, I was already, pitching to different colleagues different use cases, stable coins, trying to educate them. So it was always kind of I was trying to push this content on them. Now it's the first time when I get requests, hey, what can we do with stable coins? What does this mean for us?
Sounds good.
Can we sit together and discuss this? So this is the first time, and this is a very exciting time because it's also rewarding on one side, for people that have been working in the industry for so long. And on the other side, I think that this is now finally wheels are starting to turn. So exciting times, and I think we will see a lot of the things coming through next year.
Sounds good. And the second part of the question, you can survive
I forgot it already.
Yeah. So what's in the technology? What do you see? It's exciting. So that was your role, and but in the end, what do you see? It's exciting.
So crypto space is moving extremely fast, and we see a lot of trends also there, from prediction markets to DeFi.
That's interesting.
And I think that especially when it comes to this institutional DeFi that we mentioned at the beginning, this is a space that is definitely worth watching. I mean, a lot of the things are kind of trying to replicate or to make better the things what banks already do today. So I think that there are definitely certain new concepts, but there are also definitely more efficient ways how we can do banking business or financial service business in the future using the institutional DeFi. So I think that this is definitely a space to watch.
Thank you very much. These are really interesting topics, and I guess we should close our expert talk now. So we covered stablecoins, we covered the banking adoption, we covered MiCA, we covered about what can we expect in the market as well. So I think it was a pretty exciting and insightful talk. Vid, thank you very much. I'm glad we could have you.
Thank you very much, Peter. And if there are any questions or requests, happy to also connect on LinkedIn.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.